Good morning, everybody. Oh, there. Good morning, everybody. Hope you're having a fantastic day today. I toast to you and all you do. I love coffee. Anyways, so today I want to talk about something that's a little deeper, I guess, a little deeper, I guess. Let's just stick there. I want to talk about guilt and shame and responsibility and what you carry with you throughout the days. So, in high school, I had to read a book that was The Things We Carried. And in high school, it was like, this is so silly. Like, it was not all about reading this book. But now as a grown-up, looking back at it, I'm like, oh. It wasn't like literally talking about, a lot of the book was talking about things that they literally carry, but really the overall story was talking about the things that you carry with you through life. Like, what you bring with you each day. And I don't think that we often realize the burdens and the weight and the everything that we're carrying with us. It makes me think of that song, like that beast, I'll be your beast of burden. And it was funny, I had to have my dad explain that song to me when I was younger. Like, what is he even talking about? And he's like, well, I'll be the one that carries all your burdens. I'm like, oh. And it's just one of those, you start to think about how many burdens you're carrying. How many rocks have you put in your backpack that you carry with you everywhere? And why? Why are you carrying with them? Why are you carrying that guilt or that shame or that responsibility? Like, what are you carrying with you and why? Good morning, Mia. That's the neighbor dog. It's cold and she gets let out a lot, so when she hears me, she barks. That's okay, though. So, there's a great activity that at some point in my education of counseling and whatnot, we went through where you literally take a bag and you start filling it up. What are you carrying? Guilt or shame or remorse or, what burden are you carrying with you? What is bringing you stress? And you write it on the rock and then you put it in the backpack and then you pick up the backpack and you carry it around for a while and you see exactly what you're physically carrying with you. We carry a lot of guilt for the things that we've done in the past, but you can't change the past. You can't go back and redo it. It's just not possible. So you just have to learn from those lessons. You have to take the information that you learned. The kids are contemplating coming outside to get this giant box. We got a new stove. So they're standing there staring at the box they're pointing at. They're excited. They're excited about this box that they're going to build a castle out of. Anyways. They're trying to be sneaky. Anyways. So what are you carrying with you every day? What are you bringing along the road that you really don't need to? And you think about the past and, okay, so you can't undo the past. You can't redo the past. All you can do is learn from those lessons. So you take all of your burdens and your guilt and your remorse or your I wish I could have done this again, or your anger, like I'm still mad about this situation or I'm still sad about this situation, and all of these different things that you're holding on to these feelings. And honestly, I really recommend doing the rock thing. This, for me personally, was like transforming in my brain and in my world. I come from a background where my parents weren't always the most responsible. There's a lot of drugs and drinking and just that kind of things going on as I grew up. So I held on to a lot of well, I mean, as we talked about the other day, I always have that voice in my head. This isn't good enough. Well, that comes from being in a world, growing up where I really didn't feel like what I did was enough for my parents to love me, and that's a lot to say. It's hard to say. It's hard to accept that and to think, okay, so I've made a lot of my coping mechanisms, a lot of the things that I do. I want people to like me so much that I just will put myself out there so far because I want to be good enough. And when you start to really think about, okay, why do I have that and where is it coming from and why am I carrying this with me? You start to put those rocks in your backpack. You're like, oh my goodness, I am carrying a lot. I am doing a lot every day with this huge weight. And no wonder I'm constantly have a headache and I'm stressed out and I just feel overwhelmed all the time, even if I don't do anything, because I'm carrying all of this stuff with me. So when you start writing that down and you start putting it in the backpack and you start holding the bag and you're like, oh my goodness, this is a heavy backpack. And you're like, wow, like I really carry this with me every day. Then you stop and you start pulling things back out of the backpack. Your anger towards a situation or your fear about something or your anxiety or your remorse or your guilt or whatever it is, and look at it and think about it and ponder that rock. Hold that rock in your hand and be like, what are you telling me, little rock? Why am I holding you with me? Why am I carrying this? What purpose are you serving me? And some of the rocks, you find, okay, I don't need to carry this with me anymore. I carried this with me as a child and as a teenager and whatever because I needed it to survive. But now as a grown-up, I don't need this anymore. I can let go of this. Like literally let go of the rock. Bury it, throw it in the river, throw it in the trash. Like whatever you feel is the best for you. And make sure that you're writing this down as you go along so that you have the journal entry and you have the notes and you know what it is that you're working with. Because no matter how much the physical act of putting the stone and writing on the stone and putting it in your backpack and then throwing it away and doing all of that stuff, a lot of times we still need to come back to this information and we still need to be reminded, hey, I'm not carrying that burden anymore. I learned that lesson. That's the other part of it. So when you pull out a rock and you're like, oh, I have so much guilt. I spent so much time. Yeah, I'll just use a real world example because it's easier. So I lost a friend because of another friend. And so I have this guilt for that. Like, oh, I let this person control my life to the point where I was losing all my other friends. And I feel guilty about that. I feel bad about that. I have a lot of guilt about that. Now, what is it doing for me? Nothing. What lesson did I learn from it? A lot. And I sat down and I thought about the lessons that I learned. And I thought about it like, okay, I see that this was toxic and I see where the toxicity came from. I see how it affected me. I see what I did, not what other people did. This isn't about putting blame on other people. I see what I did to allow this to happen and to just be consumed and not seeing the bigger picture and not stepping back a little bit and being like, oh, okay. And I learned that I need to step back when I am feeling so overwhelmed and stressed out and like the whole world is caving in on me. I have to step back and be like, what is going on? Who's doing the caving? Why is the world falling out from underneath me? And really start to think about that and stop accepting responsibility for what other people are doing, because that was a big part of that problem, is that because I'm just quick, that's fine, I'll just accept responsibility because I know that I am not perfect. And I'm very quick to just say, yep, I did that, I'm sorry, let's learn from this lesson, let's move forward, let's do what we need to do to move on. And when that's taken too far, and then I start accepting responsibility for other people's actions, and that's what I was doing in this case. Like, I was so consumed with this friendship that when she would do something, I would accept responsibility for it from the other people in the community. And then it was funny because we'd be like, why does everybody think that we're just the same person? Well, because of that. Not just that, but other little things like that. And I was too quick to accept that responsibility. And then I was carrying this responsibility of more than myself, and that became more rocks to carry, and that's stressful. And so it was like a weird, okay, you start thinking about the rocks you're putting in your backpack and why you're putting them in your backpack and what they're doing for you and who you're carrying them for and why you're carrying them. And some of the things are pretty obvious. Like, why am I accepting responsibility for somebody else's actions? Nope, I didn't do that. I didn't say those things. I didn't make that situation. Let go of that. Because I can't fix I'm not in control of other people. So just let go of that rock. That was an easy rock. Phew, gone. I had all of the rocks that I'm carrying for other people. There's no reason for that. Just let it go. Rocks that I'm carrying because of my fears of childhood abandonment. I'm a grown-up now. We can begin to move past that. And those rocks aren't as easy as like, oh, I'm holding this responsibility for somebody else. No, I don't have to do that. I did this. Here's a funny example. So as a kid, I was like, hey, I'm going to do a great thing and I'm going to clean the house. But I used dish soap and I washed every wall in the house with dish soap. It was a mess. I got in a lot of trouble. And there was part of me that was like, I just wanted to help. Why am I getting in so much trouble? And, my parents tried not to be mad at me. But how do you not be mad when there's dish soap on every wall in the house? Like, I literally was very thorough. And there was a little piece of me that was like, I felt bad for that. Even like as a grown-up, I look back and I remember that moment and I hold on to that. I'm like, oh, I feel that moment of like when you do a good job, but it wasn't really a good job. And it was just like a weird thing. And I held on to that for a long time. And then one day I was like, that's really silly. Like, why am I holding on to this weird thing that like negatively motivates me to try too hard or extend myself too far or to do a better job? And not in a good way, but in like in an overbearing, overpowering kind of way. Anyways, so when you start to let go of those rocks, you're like, whoa, now I see. Now my backpack is much less heavy. And there are burdens and baggage and problems that aren't going to be as easy as just let this rock go, or let's just think about this, or maybe I should journal about this. Some things that you're going to really need help through. Some things you're going to have to talk out with a professional. Some things you're going to have to talk out with the gods or the elements or do magic or reach out to somebody that you love, or like I said, get a counselor. Therapy is amazing and should not come with such a stigma like it does, because it's really good for you. And I very much encourage it. If you feel like you need somebody to talk to, then do it. Go talk to somebody. It's really easy to talk to somebody that you don't know, that doesn't judge you, that's not like gonna tell your friends. Sometimes we need that. I offer those services. If you're not comfortable going to like a licensed allopathic therapist, there are alternatives, So don't hesitate to reach out to talk to somebody, because sometimes we need to talk to somebody about all of these burdens and baggages and things that we're carrying with us. But you have to begin. I guess that's what I always come back to, this AA thing. Like I said, I come from a family of addicts. So, but the first step to admitting a problem is, or the first step to fixing a problem is admitting the problem. And a lot of times we don't even know that we're carrying so much with us that we don't see that this is a problem. It's just normal life. I talk to people and I'm like, I have so much anxiety and it's always crippling me. And then we start to talk about what's making them anxious. And we eventually get to the point where they're making themselves anxious by over-analyzing and over-criticizing and overthinking and overplaying all of these burdens that they're carrying that they don't even need to be carrying. Like, what is it serving you? And sometimes burdens serve us. Sometimes hard times teach us good lessons and keep us motivated, and we keep those. You're never going to have an empty backpack. So don't think that that's the goal. If we didn't have suffering, we wouldn't know what love is. If we didn't have love, we wouldn't know suffering. Like, it's both sides of the coin. You can't have one without the other. And every experience is going to be a little pebble or a rock or a whatever. I guess here's the other part of it, though. Some of the pebbles and rocks we're standing on, and we're using them for strength. So I learned to step back from a situation and look. Like, am I being consumed with this relationship? Am I letting this person take advantage of me? Has it gone too far? Is this mutually beneficial? What has he done for me lately? All right. There's constant radio in my brain. But, and so instead of that being a burden, like I feel I carry it on my back, like, oh, I'm constantly overextending, whatever. No, now it's a rock that I stand on, and I stand on it and I say, I am a very generous person and I am capable of giving a lot. But I also have to recognize when I'm giving too much and when I'm not receiving anything back. It has to be a mutual flow of energy. People ask me, like, how do you stay at home and not work? And how do you be a stay-at-home wife and a homemaker and all of that stuff? Well, I feel very much like my husband and I are a team. He does the things that I don't want to do, and I do the things that he doesn't want to do, and we come together and we work as a team when it's necessary. And we don't have to be doing the same thing to be equal. And so the relationships that now I stand on my rock and I say, okay, is this relationship benefiting me? Am I benefiting this other person? Is this a mutual relationship? Are we succeeding as a team? And you have to be able to look at that. You know, honesty. Honesty has been a burden that I both carry and stand on. I'm a very honest person. It is a burden that I carry because I can't keep my mouth shut when I need to. I mean, I can, but I don't choose to. I don't feel like keeping your mouth shut is the best route. I think that if something needs to be said, it should be said. I think that things like domestic abuse and pedophilia and rape and abuse and abuse and abuse and abuse would be less of a problem in our society if more people opened their mouth and said something. Racism, you know, right now as we all stand up and we're like, racism is wrong, and if you're a racist, I don't like you. There are a lot of people who are losing their friends, who are losing their community. You know, I can't, racism is so stupid to me. All the isms. Anyways, when you start to put your rocks down and either use them as a stepping stone to stand on or to stand up on or to boost you up, then you're using them as tools. Then you're learning your lessons from them. They can also make the path in which that you've walked on to get to where you are. Because without the experiences, you wouldn't be who you are, you wouldn't be where you are, and you wouldn't be where you're going. And sometimes it's hard to see that, but you are where you're meant to be. And if you're not, then you're probably in need for some change. So this will be a great time for you to make those changes, to start thinking about where it is that you've come from and where you want your path to go in the future. Are you carrying those stones, or are they on your back? Like, or are you walking on them? Like, where are your burdens? Where are these lessons? Where is your guilt and your remorse and your responsibility and your, even good things can be like, you know, children are amazing and also burdensome all at the same time. There's no, like, it's just one of those things. There's no black and white area in this. This is all gray area, and you have to color it in with all your shades of gray. And I just got a funny thing about the whole 50 Shades of Grey. This is not like that. Anyways, so either start writing down or go get a pile of rocks and start thinking about it. But think about what burdens you're carrying. Think about what you're doing. And I challenge you to go out and to do this and to really think about what you carry with you and why. And is this a lesson? Is it helping? Is it hurting? What is it doing for you? And begin that journal process and really think about that. And try to build yourself a beautiful path instead of a heavy backpack. So, many blessings to you. Now that my coffee is cold and sad, let's see. It's alright. I gotta get a better thermal cup for these videos. Anyways, many toasts to you, many blessings, and I hope that you have a fantastic day and that this challenge of identifying your burdens helps to loosen the load a little bit. Lessen the load. Yeah, lessen the load. There you go. Cheers.